Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight's show will focus on Kenya and its efforts to boost the visibility, support and opportunities available to its women. Recently, the country's top judge advised President Uhuru Kenyatta that parliament should be dissolved because of a shortfall in female lawmakers. The country's 2010 constitution requires that no more than 2/3 of elective public bodies, including parliament, be more than 2/3 of one gender. That hasn't happened yet. Today, women make up just 21.78% of the National Assembly and 30.88% of the Senate. Now, the situation has triggered a constitutional crisis, but in an exclusive interview with France 24 on Thursday, President Uhuru Kenyatta said that improving female political representation will not be served by dissolving parliament.
Yes, it is indeed a regret, but at the same time, you've also got to understand that the spirit of the Constitution was actually one of progressively getting there, because at the end of the day, we have to recognize that we must balance between the rights of citizens to elect their representatives and the need for us to be able to have gender parity in any country. And let me say, and this is a fact, in a democratic society, that is not easily achievable. You have countries like the United States, I think even France, that have yet to achieve that particular objective. So we're all striving to get there. So I believe that the constitutional intention was more aspirational, because it should be an aspiration for us to be able to achieve that. And I believe we are working towards that end, where we have the capacity, for example, in the executive, to appoint women to positions. We have, and we have more or less achieved that balance.
So you can check out the whole interview with President Uhuru Kenyatta speaking to Mark Perelman by heading to France 24's website and checking out the interview. But for now, to continue looking at the issues dealing with women in the country, I'm joined by MP for Nairobi County, Esther Pisares. Esther, thanks for making the time to speak to me. Now, we heard there Kenyatta saying that it will take time to improve the gender balance in Parliament. What do you make of that? Is it so hard to get the constitutionally required number of female MPs?
I think, first of all, thank you very much for having me. It's really sad that patriarchy is so enshrined in even our constitution now, because we put that, we voted for not more than 2/3 of one gender. It's in our constitution. So the rule of law has to apply. The Chief Justice giving the advisory to the President was because all the attempts that we've made so far have not borne any fruit. The fact is, the issue of progressive is something that the men came up with recently. Oh, we can give it to you over 20 years, we can give it to you over a period of time, not immediately. But the fact is, we wanted the Constitution, what the voters of Kenya wanted was not more than 2/3 of one gender. They wanted women to have their slots in Parliament, in the executive, in the judiciary, because we are 50% women. So the idea of progressive came out later. I believe that if we had political goodwill in terms of the political parties literally trying very hard to de-whip all their members, we could have been able to pass this, all the laws that are required to implement the not more than 2/3 of one gender. But it seems like this is not going to be something that is going to come easily, because now the narrative is progressive, or it's going against people's democratic rights. At the end of the day, if parties nominate women, then women will be elected. It's not the constituents. We're not infringing on their rights or their democratic space. It's giving them the opportunity to vote women. They voted for me under an affirmative action seat. So they knew that when they vote for me, they would get a woman, because it was women running against women to make the quotas that we needed. I think France has really gone through this as well as a country, and I believe that very soon you'll probably be able to get the numbers even higher than your expectation. Again, it had to be done through quotas. We've got Rwanda, we've got Senegal, we've got South Africa. I believe that Kenya should also lead by example. You know, it's enshrined in our constitution. Let us respect the constitution.
In this time of the pandemic, we've seen it have effects on every aspect of society. It's been a tough time for everyone. Do you believe that that it has posed any unique challenges for women in your country?
I think it has challenges not only in Kenya but all over the world. We saw a rise in domestic gender-based violence. We've seen children at home being defiled, getting pregnant because they're not going to school. That means we've seen that the collapse of the family. Women, we've got a lot of single parents in our country. So at the end of the day, women also trying to fend for their families. It's been very difficult. So the pandemic has shown us that we need a lot more structures to protect women and children. You know, I mean, just one point, you know, we provide free sanitary towels, but we didn't distribute the sanitary towels before the pandemic. And what happened is the girls were at home and they were depending on sanitary towels from the government. So again, that was a gap, you know, where, you know, girls could not access sanitary towels. So we've realized that we also need safe houses and safe spaces for women. So as a country, we need to do a lot more to protect our women and our girls, and especially in terms of empowerment. The government has got a lot of interventions, but we need a lot more to help women. We've got interventions to give the youth jobs, but the kind of jobs we're giving to the youth, we can't give them to mature women who have children. So, and then, you know, we've got a provision for much older women, you know, the age, but we have a bracket of over 35 to 55 that we really need to do a lot more to safeguard them, especially since they're breadwinners.
So you touched upon there about the issue of sexual health. Every year in the country, more than 2,500 women die from unsafe abortions. Gender equity has a massive impact on sexual health and education. Do you believe you see anything changing on that front in the country?
Well, we've tried. In the last parliament, they tried to bring a sexual reproductive health bill, and it failed. And again, there's one in the Senate right now, and there's one coming up again as a measure in case the one in the Senate collapses. In fact, the Committee of Health from the Senate is on a retreat trying to write a report. But unfortunately, we find a lot of influence with, the Catholic Church and most of the sponsors that try very hard to fight the sexual reproductive health bill on the basis that it's call it an abortion bill. So we really need to.
Unfortunately, that is, I'm going to have to leave you there for the moment, but thanks very much for speaking, making the time to speak to us. In a timely fashion, as Esther was mentioning there, Kenya's Senate is due to again debate a controversial reproductive healthcare bill over the coming weeks. Now, it was first introduced in 2014, but failed to get off the ground. Critics worry that it is solely an abortion bill. It does aim to clarify the legality of abortions, but also to make access to family planning, including fertility treatments, easier and provide free maternal services. Our team reports from Nairobi.
Family planning is difficult to access, and so the prevalence of unplanned pregnancies is high. 7 women die every day due to unsafe abortions in Kenya. The women in this house have taken matters into their own hands. They organize sex education classes for the women in their community.
Anything that you know about menstruation cycle.
Maureen has taken a keen interest in the bill. If passed into law, it will give women the right to family planning and the access to maternity services in public hospitals. She says the state must act.
They can't just assume that things are going well in the ground, and yet the ground things are different. They have to come with one voice and then work together with the human rights who are outside, the concerned citizen, to help the women to get their rights.
Religious groups have opposed the bill and want it withdrawn. According to them, it is controversial because it guarantees the right to an abortion when the mother is in danger and there's a risk that the fetus could suffer from severe physical or mental abnormality. It also gives the access to fertility treatments.
We favor an approach where the government calls stakeholders and we get a bill which more or less is a consensus product that supports life and health and our various moral and cultural values in Kenya.
A national survey showed that 85% of the population is against the voluntary termination of pregnancy. Opponents of this new bill describe it only as a pro-abortion bill. Its supporters accuse some critics of oversimplifying the proposal laws in order to stifle debate.
This bill is not going against anybody's religion. It's not creating demand for abortion. It's not encouraging promiscuity. It is looking at what is already happening and protecting the rights of people who are affected by what's happening already.
The proposed changes are deeply polarizing. In 2014, a similar bill was rejected, and Kenya's current Minister of Health is amongst the critics of this latest reproductive health care bill. Nevertheless, its advocates believe it could still be passed, even in the face of such strong opposition.
Now, sexual violence is a daily reality for thousands of women and girls in Kenya and is a critical public health and human rights issue. COVID-19 restrictions have made it even harder for victims to get help and has led to a rise in violence against women. Many survivors say that they have lost faith in the justice system and that support is scarce. Mikelwa Shachwayu reports from a women's shelter in Nairobi.
It's estimated that 14% of women in Kenya experience rape at least once in their lifetime. Underage girls are the most vulnerable. Their perpetrators are also often known to them, like family members or relatives. Today we're at this shelter for young girls who were rescued after being sexually violated, then ostracized by their families and communities. Pauline Jima runs this shelter for young girls. Pauline, please tell me, what motivated you to open up this shelter?
So Rebirth of a Queen is basically a personal journey. It's a way of me giving space to the teenage girl that was defiled at the age of 16, and I didn't have a space to breathe. I didn't have a space to let out my fears. I didn't have a space to grow. And I had to look at my perpetrator every single time I was on the street. Justice in Kenya is very expensive. Our police system, you have to corrupt the police to help you. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night and they are not transport. And then we just have victimization in the society.
The shelter houses 20 girls from 10 to 17 years old. They help each other with daily chores like cooking and cleaning. Counseling is also available. Survivors of rape often suffer from mental health issues long after the assault. Emily was only 15 when she was abused.
I am a survivor of sexual violence. The perpetrator was my dad. I was in Form 2 by then. Then it was during this December holiday. I went and visited my dad. So it happened for almost a month.
Rape and other forms of sexual assault are the most underreported crimes in Kenya. Even when reported, the criminal justice system is not designed to protect survivors and deliver adequate justice. Gender activists are calling for a wider representation of women in parliament. They say this may lead to more progressive laws being passed, laws that would protect survivors instead of condemn them.
Mikelwa Shachwayu there for us. Well, finally, we hear from one woman known for doing a lot of heavy lifting in her community. Mercy Obiero pushed through discrimination to become, in 2012, the second African woman to compete in weightlifting in the Olympics. Today, she's passing on her skills and the determination that she's cultivated to her daughter and granddaughter.
At 42, Mercy Obiero is a young grandmother. She trains her granddaughter and daughter, who are nearly the same age. Obiero was the first Kenyan woman weightlifter at the Olympics and the second from Africa.
I started to train my younger daughter, Chanel. She's very interested. She always goes with me for training, for all the competition. She's like my assistant. In fact, she's always motivating me, Mom, you should do this. Now today you should aim for 200 kilos. So whenever I see her with me in the gym, I always hit my best.
Obiero took part in the 2012 Olympics in London. Her daughter was very young back then, but remembers being glued to the TV screen.
When she went for Olympics, I was very happy. So I saw her at the TV, and I was very happy. And I said one day even me, I'll go to Olympics.
Obiero has been weightlifting for 20 years. She says it wasn't always easy in the gyms, as some men told her it wasn't a sport for women. But she persevered and won many medals. Now, as schools are closed in Kenya because of the coronavirus, her daughter and granddaughter are often eager to go to the gym, as they try to walk in the footsteps of their energetic grandmother.
Well, clearly a powerful family there. That is, though, all we have time for our Eye on Africa Kenya special. Remember, you can always check out our full interview with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta on The Interview at France 24's website. But do join me again if you can. Till then, take care.